This video is sponsored by me. Read my original novel, Dance of Rose and Death. Link in the description. Greetings, fellow mortals. Now, I want to start this off by saying that I have no problem with fanfiction as a concept. It's a good way for the audience to interact with their favorite stories. Sometimes it builds friendships and a sense of community. Other times, it could be that fans just simply want to ship their favorite characters. There are even instances where the audience is just unsatisfied with the ending of a particular storyline or even the ending of the entire series. As such, they work to make hundreds of different alternatives for headcanon. In some ways, those endings are better than some of the ones I've seen in the actual shows, movies, or games. The two examples that come up in my head most prevalently are Game of Thrones and Mass Effect 3, both of which ended with a wet fart. It feels like the fans of Game of Thrones wanted the show to end in a better way than even George R.R. Martin did, and the actual developers of Mass Effect 3 came out and said that the indoctrination theory was smarter than anything that they came up with in the writer's room, which is weird considering how prevalent the idea was right after Mass Effect 3 released.
I can handle things, I'm smart! Not like everybody says!
So I actually support fanfiction, but it never seemed like companies and corporations ever did. For a long time, and even today, it's a taboo topic. It feels like any creator could come out at any moment and condemn their fans because the sense of appreciation is dead. Just look at Rick and Morty for a decent example. You can condemn bad behavior among your fan base without tossing all of your fans out the window. But that's a complicated situation now. I'm interested to see how the show develops with Justin Roiland in the, let's say, alleged mess that he's in. I think that's a legally safe way to put it. And it's not just that one show. It seems that almost everything chastises their audience in some way now. Star Wars, Star Trek, the MCU, Rings of Power, and many, many others. Granted, there is abusive and discriminatory behavior out there on the internet, but that's the vast minority of loud weirdos out there. If someone has a criticism, it might not be because they're a bad person. Maybe they just simply disagree with a storyline. Maybe they feel passionately enough about your art to say something. Maybe you shouldn't call everyone who doesn't like one aspect of a story a terrible human being that should be thrown away and never seen again. And all of this is a weird way to treat fans when the people who are working with these modern projects are in fact making fan fiction. If you think about it, Star Wars is pure George Lucas. If he's not involved, it can technically be classified as fan fiction. The same thing could even be said for House of the Dragon, and I love House of the Dragon. Now, George does have a say in the prequel show, and the writers follow Martin's timeline respectfully, but it's not like he's in the writer's room or on set. If the original creator is not involved in the small details, I can easily qualify the content as fan fiction. Granted, it could be fan fiction of varying degrees of quality, just like Rings of Power. Now, you can love the show for all I care. Personally, I was so bored that I couldn't get past episode 3. It felt very fan fiction-y, just with a lot of money involved. And I mean a lot of money, like $1 billion. Can you imagine having that much money and creating something so mid? I would be embarrassed. If you're going to show appreciation to Tolkien, you might as well put more effort into making something interesting.
This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
But all of those are projects and pieces of entertainment associated with one single creator. What about media that has had a multitude of writers and directors from the start? Star Trek and The Simpsons come to mind. Neither franchise feels anything like when they were first created or at their peak. Writers, directors, animators, and almost every other person behind the scenes has long since come and gone. The only thing that they have in common with any of the original DNA are the actors and voice actors involved. But that's going to change pretty soon for Star Trek. With Picard at its conclusion, there isn't anyone left to come back, except maybe Will Wheaton. Oh god, I don't want to wish that into existence by accident. And the voices behind the Simpsons characters could retire tomorrow, and no one would really be shocked. They have been doing this for a long time, and the show has already lost people. Imagine if one of the voice actresses who do multiple characters just disappeared. Would it really be The Simpsons anymore?
You're not real.
None of this is to take away from your enjoyment of these series. If you like them, that is great. Enjoy them. But it's hard to say that something can feel like anything other than fanfiction when the original creators are no longer involved with the project. But corporations love the money and prestige that comes with the name value, so they embrace this concept of fanfiction, all the while chastising original fans and demanding their money anyway. I understand part of it. Companies like Disney and Amazon want to create a new fan base for older franchises, but they also want to change a series. But if they change it too much from the original, then those original fans will turn away. It's almost like they should just let sleeping dogs lie and try adapting something new to make a new fan base that will stick with them for 40 years. They could even bring in the original creators that are still alive to help with the project so that it wouldn't be classified as fan fiction in people's minds. But what do I know other than the most obvious things that could be pointed out ever? It's not like I think that I'm smart for saying all this.
Welcome back, Captain Obvious.
Yes, I am.
But what about a story that hasn't been completed yet? Think about something like the Wheel of Time books or Berserk. The creators died before finishing those series. The last 3 books of the Wheel of Time was finished by someone else. Berserk is continuing under someone else's command. Granted, those 2 examples were approved of by the original creators' families, but you could still classify it all as fan fiction. It's not the original author's work. It will never be the same as if the creators finish their stories before passing on. And there are other examples as well. Many of the Dune sequels were written by Frank Herbert's son. Tolkien's notes were compiled by his son as well. Does all of this count? Is it part of the original work? What about if the author never intended to make a sequel or to have it published, but was pressured into it? To Kill a Mockingbird technically has a sequel, but there's a controversy about whether Harper Lee even wanted it published. In her old age, she might have been forced into it. Does that make it fanfiction if the creator didn't even want it to exist?
Really makes you think.
There is also the argument that it doesn't really matter what the original creator wants or if they're actually involved. It matters who owns the property. They get to decide what they want to do with their franchises, and that's technically fair. I'm not claiming any legality about the situation. This is a thought experiment about these corporate approved fanfictions. What are we as fans of the original material willing to accept? Something like Hogwarts Legacy did very well, and that didn't have J.K. Rowling involved at all. Not to mention that the game is 100% fan fiction in execution, and that's what it advertised itself as. It is the ideal self-insert open world Hogwarts experience. Granted, I would argue that Fire Emblem Three Houses did the day-to-day aspect of being in a magical school better, but no one can deny the absolute passion involved behind the scenes with the game. Even if the screaming involved outside of the project was insane, you have to give it to the developers on this one. They handled the situation perfectly with Hogwarts Legacy. Of course, this company-approved fanfiction could possibly be a good thing as well. Sherlock Holmes is probably one of the most famous characters in existence, and he was created a long time ago. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle died in 1930, but his work lives on close to a century later. Granted, this is different circumstances. We have entered the territory of free domain characters. Anyone can do what they want with Sherlock Holmes, and they have. So we could come up on the opposite end of the argument in this case. These corporate-approved Sherlock Holmes fanfiction have kept Doyle's work alive. It could inspire new fans to go back and read the original work. There is a positive there, but public domain is a completely different topic for another video. It's just something interesting to think about. Fan fiction has kept Holmes more alive and more relevant than most stories and characters, so all this could be put into consideration. Should something that's copyrighted have corporate approved fan fiction or not? Is it all a matter of timing and perspective? There's no real answer to all of this. As with all art, it's a matter of perspective and interpretation. It's not like we have hard and set rules for all of this. How you feel is up to you, but I find it strange that no one has been talking about this topic. It feels as though there's a heavy reliance on fan fiction now. At the same time, there's a feeling of self-loathing behind all of this that comes in the form of lashing out at the fan base. Maybe that's one lesson other stories should learn from Hogwarts Legacy. Embrace what you are and give the fans the experience they want, or the ones that they don't know that they want. That seems like the best way to success when you're writing high budget fan fiction. But what do you think? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your perspectives. And thank you so much for watching. If you like my takes on storytelling, please consider reading my original novel, Dance of Frozen Death, book 1 in the Written in Stone series, link in the description. And my second book, Above Heaven, will be released on May 1st, 2023. I hope that you will check them both out. I appreciate you. Do not despair.